Happiness, Part 7. This is the conclusion, a few tidbits based on my research. If you've stayed with me this long, then I really appreciate it, and you may enjoy these. I did an experiment when I was teaching at a community college. Had students in psychology classes come in. I mean, they were my students. And I told them to write down on a piece of paper the grade of A. This was a pop quiz, and they automatically, by staying in class and completing it, would receive a grade of A. And it would count for those people who didn't want to take it, didn't want to stay, didn't want to participate. It wouldn't count against them. I would just average the grades, the other grades that they had, and give them their final grade. For those who did want to take it, I would average their grades and stick this A in with it, which would have been 1/4 of their grade. So it would have helped. But I wasn't going to lower anybody else's grade. It is, all the grades would be higher as a result of this. I wouldn't push somebody, say, from B to C because they didn't take it. And then I asked them to put the following times down. So I think the class was about an hour and 20 minutes. So I had them write down 10 o'clock, 10:02, 10:04. And I asked them to put down a brief description of how they felt at that moment when I said, okay, right, and a number which referred to -10 to +10, how enjoyable or unenjoyable, or if it was neutral, which is a 0. Now, they had to be there anyway unless they decided to leave. So you got people who were already sitting there, and as long as it wasn't painful, it probably wouldn't be worse than a 0. But wouldn't be terrible anyway. And so they wrote this down. Okay, when you came in, how did it feel? And what they said on average was, as they were sitting there before class was going to start, +1, they were relaxed, there's no assignment or anything. So, it wasn't terrible. So, on average, it was about +1. Then I asked them to get out this piece of paper and put this on there. Then I had a question for them, and they needed to think about this and then tell how it felt thinking about it. The question was this: if you know what, your own personality, your parents, whatever, your own conception of yourself, what bird comes closest to being the way you see yourself? And then I think it was some other animal, non-bird animal. And so they wrote this down. Well, it sounded like something some nutty psychologist would do, and then I asked them to tell how you feel at this point. Well, thinking about this, some were a little bit amused. And then I said, okay, now, write down, which one you think is most like you. And which one do you think other people would think is most likely? Some variation on it. And so at that point, they assumed that they would be asked that question, and it would be kind of maybe a little pleasant, a little amusing, like that, and they could hear other people. So at this point, it was completely non-threatening, and so maybe on average it was like +1, +2. And then I said, okay, that's fine. So you've thought about it and you have it and written it down. Now what I want you to do is to do an impersonation of that bird or animal. And then at the conclusion, have other people guess what the animal is. And then you tell why you picked that animal. And immediately it went to -7, -8. Now when you think about it, I mean, if you were going into a Sunni neighborhood in Iraq and you were with the special forces and there was gunfire coming out of nowhere, and you were faced with God knows what kind of danger, -7, -8, if you were unprepared, might be about right. But these were people that had to do an impersonation of a bird and get a grade of A automatically. And there was all kinds of stuff. So these are very, very negative experience for them. And then they had to do it. I didn't call on people. I just said, when anybody would like to do it, go ahead. And someone would say, well, I'm going to get it over with. And so they would do it. And then something happened as this was going along. The people who did it were smiling, and the scores they put down indicated they felt great. And the other ones were getting more anxious, but there was suddenly, instead of a bunch of students in a lecture class, these people were acting differently. They were kidding each other, but they were also encouraging each other to do this. They were helping out. They were creating a light atmosphere in the class. People that normally they didn't even talk to when they first got into class. And then another one would do it. And then someone would say, well then, I don't think I should. Well, I certainly wouldn't coerce you, and you're welcome to leave. I mean, it's quite all right. There's no, but nobody left. I did this on 6 different occasions, 6 different classes, and nobody ever left. I mean, a lot of people felt horrible and wanted to, but there was some kind of pressure, either from, they felt, since I had depressurized it as much as I could, not to try to get away. And gradually, another person jumped in. And what they were thinking, they were thinking they weren't going to do it right. But of course, there's no right way to imitate a bird or a snail. I mean, it's a game. Okay, this will have to go on to 8.